I think it is easy to settle this right now by President Biden going to the Brady Press Center, the press file in the White House, and doing a 2-hour press conference. Everybody would cover it live. Networks probably would cover it live. He'd answer all these questions. It's not a crazy thing to expect a president to do. And the fact is, you know that. The campaign knows that. The White House knows that. That's how you settle this. You just put him in front of reporters, and he handles himself with acuity, aplomb. We all see it was just a fluke. Oh, my God, I can't believe it happened. And we move on. The fact that you haven't done that says quite a bit to me.
This is my video update on this Tuesday afternoon, July the 2nd. Let's talk about some news. And the big news for today is Viktor Orban's trip to Kiev. Hungary now has the rotating presidency of the EU Council. And the first trip that Orban has decided to take as president of the EU Council, representing Hungary as president of the EU Council, is a trip to Kiev to visit the man in a green t-shirt. That's right. And to risk an Elensky curse. That is the risk that Orban is taking. But he is risking an Elensky curse in order to try and convince Ukraine to start negotiations with Russia. That is the purpose of the trip. The meeting between Orban and Elensky has taken place, and I believe it has finished at the time of this recording. And I think that Orban and Elensky did not have a press conference. I believe they decided to not speak to the media, or to briefly speak to the media after their discussions. But things are pretty quiet, at least with regards to what they actually talked about, the details of what they talked about. The only information that we're getting at the time of this video recording is that the main priority for Orban was to meet with Zelensky. They signed some sort of a bilateral agreement or something like that. I don't think that's too important. But the main point of Orban traveling to Kiev and taking this meeting with Zelensky and risking an Zelensky curse was to try and convince Zelensky to open negotiations with Russia. That officially is what they're saying about this trip to Kiev. If that is the case, and Orban went to Kiev to try and convince Zelensky to speak with Putin and to open up negotiations and get to a ceasefire, well then, Orban traveled in the wrong direction. Yeah. The solution for Ukraine does not lie east, Mr. Prime Minister of Hungary. The solution with Ukraine is west. Washington, D.C., that is where the solution for Ukraine lies. That's officially what this trip was about. Orban is one of, I think, either 2 or 3 EU leaders that had not visited Kiev, had not traveled to Ukraine to pay homage to the man in the green t-shirt. Orban, Fico, and maybe 1 or 2 other EU leaders have still not gone to Ukraine to bow down to Elensky. But Orban did not bow down to Elensky. He didn't hug Elensky. That's good. That is good. He did not hug Elensky, and therefore the Elensky curse may not have an effect on Orban and on Hungary. I still haven't quite worked out if the Elensky curse, if you can avoid the Elensky curse by not hugging Elensky, or is it just with a handshake? I haven't figured that out yet. Maybe you guys know in the comments down below. Do you have to hug Elensky to be inflicted with the Elensky curse, or can you get it from a handshake? I don't know. Maybe we will find out. Anyway, that is the trip from Orban to Kiev. I'm positive that Orban discussed the ethnic Hungarians in the west of Ukraine and Transcarpathia. I'm sure that Orban discussed this with Zelensky as well. And yeah, that's the information that we have to go off of for the time being. Let me check if there's anything else connected to Orban's trip to Hungary. The photos don't paint the picture of two guys that get along. It looks like they did speak to the media. I'm just looking at a photo right now, but no details. No, on Twitter. No details as to what's taking place with this photo. It just shows Orban, Elensky standing behind the podium. Doesn't look like they get along. Let's see, Orban, Kiev. This is like real-time news reporting right now. Real-time news reporting, and let's see, Hungary is not against Ukraine or against Russia. Hungary is against war. We want to stop the war, so for us the most important goal is to have a ceasefire as soon as possible. With that to stop to die more people. Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Yeah, I don't think we have any real detailed information as to what they discussed. Okay, that is Orban meeting with Zelensky. I'm sure more info will come out over the next day or two. Let's talk about NATO and Project Ukraine. So NATO is building up this new revenue stream, this new business model called Project Ukraine. They are going to put together a command center. This was announced yesterday in Germany, dedicated to Project Ukraine. And they are going to create a job position, a job posting for someone to be permanently dedicated and in charge of Project Ukraine. So the revenue stream is really taking shape, huh? This new revenue stream called Project Ukraine for the business that is called NATO. And this command center and this new position is going to be in charge of all the weapons being sent to Ukraine out of Germany. It's going to be in charge of all the weapons that flow to Ukraine, as well as all the money that will flow to Project Ukraine. That's what this position is all about. So NATO is taking Project Ukraine very seriously. A lot of money in this new business venture. 45 billion a year by forcing NATO member states to contribute to Project Ukraine every year. Mandatory money from EU member states' budget to go just to Project Ukraine. Not only to NATO, but also to Project Ukraine. 45 billion yearly mandatory subscriptions. That's a good freaking business. Really good business. So everything's going to be run out of Germany, and according to the Wall Street Journal, NATO is rushing the development of this new business model because they want to make it Trump-proof. They want to make sure that if Trump wins the elections come November, that he won't be able to shut down Project Ukraine and shut down a very lucrative revenue stream for NATO. So they're making it Trump-proof. All of it out of Germany. I imagine that when NATO saw, the NATO bosses, when they saw the debate between Biden and Trump the other day, I imagine they said, crap, we better get Project Ukraine, the business of Project Ukraine going. We better get it going very quickly. Let's put a job posting up. Let's create a command center in Germany, because after watching Biden, Trump may actually become president of the United States, and there's a risk that something would happen to NATO and something would happen to Project Ukraine. So that's what NATO's doing, making it Trump-proof. NATO plans to establish a senior representative post in Kiev, as well as a new command in Germany to coordinate assistance for Ukraine, the Wall Street Journal reported on July 1st, citing U.S. and allied officials. This is part of the alliance's effort to safeguard long-term aid for Ukraine should Donald Trump return to the White House after the U.S. presidential election later this year, the outlet wrote. Got to keep the grift going. A lot of money still tied up in Project Ukraine. NATO's going to manage all of it. So, Finland, what is this? Finland approves U.S. access to 15 military bases. Yep. Finland, in 1 year, you went from being a safe, neutral country to now having 15, soon to have 15 military bases with U.S. soldiers stationed at these military bases. Good job, Finland. You are never, ever going to get rid of the U.S. military. Maybe you don't want to get rid of the U.S. military. Maybe Finland's going to be happy having the U.S. military stationed at these 15 bases. I don't know, but once the U.S. military moves in, they never leave. And it starts with the military bases, but it's those military bases that are then used to gain control of your entire country. The political, the economic, fiscal. Yeah. Once those military bases are in your country, it's game over. The U.S. has colonized you. Maybe that's a good thing for the citizens of Finland. I don't know. Who am I to say? So Ukraine is 1 month away from a default, according to The Economist. Lending to a borrower at war entails an additional gamble that it will win. What a title from The Economist, huh? If you're going to lend money to a country at war, you better be sure they win. Otherwise, you're not getting your money back. And now the borrowers, the bondholders that have lent money to Ukraine, they want their money back. They want their money back because they realize that Ukraine is going to lose. But there's a problem, a big problem actually. Ukraine is broke, and they don't have money to pay back the bondholders. I would say that's a problem if you're a bondholder. Ukraine has a month to avoid default, The Economist reports. For the past 2 years, Ukraine's creditors have suspended debt service payments. However, the moratorium from private foreign bondholders is set to expire on August 1st. This gives Ukraine only a month to avoid default. If a deal isn't reached, Ukraine has 2 options: negotiate an extension on the debt service freeze or default. The article notes that either way, Ukrainian payments will not resume. In the long run, that could spell disaster for the country's recovery. The Economist is basically saying to the bondholders, you're not getting your money back. Whatever happens, you're not going to see all of your money, not all of it. The Economist in this article talks about a possible deal being reached where bondholders take a haircut. And from what I remember, I think the article said that bondholders would agree to a 22% haircut, but Ukraine would like a 60%. So they're very far apart from each other. But even if Ukraine decides to negotiate an extension on the debt service freeze, it's not good for bondholders. They're just delaying the inevitable. Or even if Ukraine decides to default right now, well then you're screwed. You're not getting your money back. So maybe the US will force the bondholders to accept a 50 or 60% haircut. I don't know. Maybe the US will pay the bondholders. Maybe the Biden White House will say, you know what? We'll give you your money back. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Will they allow Ukraine to default? Doubt it. I really doubt it, but it could happen. It could happen. From what I understand, Ukraine also is going to have to pay the IMF as well. I think some IMF loans are going to come due in the next month or two. And Ukraine's going to have to pay those loans as well. Though I'm sure the IMF will extend those agreements. But the private lenders, they want their money back. They want to get out of this terrible investment because they were promised many riches. They were promised all of the wealth and resources of Ukraine, and then they were promised all of the wealth and resources of Russia. And so if you were a private lender, you probably said, wow, you're telling me that if I give Ukraine X billions, I'm going to have access to not only all of Ukraine, but I'm going to have access to all of Russia and all of Russia's wealth and resources. Look at how big Russia is. My God. This is the deal of a lifetime. And Biden, I trust you. Blinken, if you're telling me that you're going to get regime change in Russia and then balkanize Russia, I trust you. I trust you. Jake Sullivan, you are, after all, the whiz kid, the wonder boy. You got it. I'll lend Ukraine money. You got it. Oh, man. Lending to a borrower at war entails an additional gamble, says The Economist. That it will win. That's the gamble. You lost the gamble. You lost the gamble. Yep. Foreign bondholders. Private foreign bondholders. It's amazing that all of these people, all of these allegedly these are the smartest people in the world. These are the most talented, most gifted, smartest investors and smartest politicians and analysts in the world bought into this regime change Russia idea. Unbelievable. Well, now it's not about regime change in Russia. The new narrative is that the conflict in Ukraine is actually all about preventing regime change in Russia. That is what Elensky told the Philadelphia Inquirer yesterday. The U.S. is afraid of regime change in Russia. Now they're afraid of regime change in Russia because they're afraid of what would happen if Russia were to break apart. That's the new narrative. That's the new spin. But everyone bought into this balkanization of Russia. And they were all thinking of all the riches that they would get from pillaging and plundering. Not only Ukraine. Ukraine was the appetizer. Russia was the main dish. You got to imagine that all of these private bondholders, as the Economist calls them, private foreign bondholders, you got to imagine that they're very upset with the Biden White House. You got to imagine that they feel that the Biden White House duped them. I don't know, just a guess. Meanwhile, in Russia, since we're talking money and economics, meanwhile in Russia, the World Bank, not friendly towards Russia, not a fan of the Russian Federation, they have upgraded the Russian economy, the country of Russia, into the category of high income. Russia is now a high income country, according to the World Bank. The World Bank's annual national income rankings released on Monday showed that Russia has advanced from upper middle to high category on the strength of its economic growth. Economic activity in Russia was influenced by a large increase in military-related activity in 2023, while growth was also boosted by a rebound in trade, plus 6.8%, the financial sector, plus 8.7%, and construction, plus 6.6%, said a post on the World Bank blog. These factors led to an increase in both real, plus 3.6%, and nominal, 10.9% GDP. And Russia's Atlas GNI per capita grew by 11.2%, the bank added. The economic growth happened even after the U.S. and its allies levied thousands of sanctions against Russia over the Ukraine conflict, openly stating that their goal, listen to this, openly stating that their goal was to destroy the Russian economy and provoke regime change in Moscow. Didn't work out the way you guys thought it was going to work out, did it? Collective West. So the Russian economy goes from strength to strength. It is now a high-income country. So the Russian economy is surging. The Russian military is surging. Confidence, surging, income going up. How are things looking on the other side? How are things looking in the collective West? Not so good. And keep in mind that the World Bank, they say that much of this growth comes from an increase in military-related activity in 2023. It also comes from the financial sector and from construction and trade. So the surge in military activity, in military-related production, is significant because the innovation, the production and the innovations that is and the innovation that is happening in the military sector is going to be applied to the commercial consumer sector of the economy. That is why Putin appointed Defense Minister Belousov, because this guy's like a master of figuring out how to take the innovations in the military sector in one area and transform them into the consumer commercial part of the economy. That's what this guy does. And so he's going to take a look at everything that's being developed on the military side of things, and he is going to add that growth to the consumer and the commercial side of the economy. That's going to be huge. That is why Belousov is in the position that he is in. And the rest of the growth, according to the World Bank, the financial sector, trade, construction, I thought Russia was isolated. Who are they trading with? Plus 6.8% increase in trade. Who are they trading with if they're so isolated? I don't know. I can't figure it out. I can't figure out who would want to trade with Russia. What does Russia have that people want to trade with or trade for? I don't know. I don't know. They were supposed to be isolated. They were supposed to be in tatters. The ruble was supposed to be rubble. What went wrong, Biden White House? What went wrong, Blinken, Sullivan, Yellen, Newland? How did you guys miscalculate so much? That doesn't matter. Promote them. Promote them. They caused chaos. Give them a promotion. Oh boy, what else? What else is going on? The Wall Street Journal and Die Welt, the German publication Die Welt, they put out articles talking about how Ukraine is having trouble mobilizing troops. They're not meeting their mobilization targets. And Die Welt, the German publication, they even said that Ukraine is trying to mobilize from the prisons. They're trying to get prisoners to go to the front lines. And they had a target of, I believe they said 10,000 for this month. And they've only hit something like 2,800 or 10,000 over 3 months. And they've only managed 2,800 from prisons. Which tells you that prisoners are probably saying, you know what? My option is to go to the front line, and if I survive, then I'm free, or stay in this cell, in this box. I'll stay in prison. Thank you very much. That's what the prisoners are telling the Ukraine military. There are also reports that Elensky is about to ditch Syrsky. Syrsky may be on his way out. Beautiful building, huh? Beautiful facade. I love beautiful architecture. It's just nice to just sit and look at. Yeah, Syrsky is not on good terms with Zelensky, so he might be on his way out. The second Ukraine commander, Zaluzhny, and soon Syrsky. And was it the Wall Street Journal or Die Welt? I think both of them reported that because Ukraine is unable to meet its mobilization goals, that a big offensive in the Kharkov direction, actually in the Kharkov direction and also towards Zaporozhye, this big offensive that was being discussed just a couple of weeks ago, is off the table. And the best that Ukraine can do now is just hold the line, hold the front line. So we may be getting a war in the Middle East, a big war. Israel may be launching an offensive into Lebanon and against Hezbollah towards the middle or end of July. A lot of embassies are issuing travel warnings to Lebanon. I believe flights are also being canceled to Lebanon as well. And we may be moving towards a huge conflict in the Middle East. And I say it's going to be a huge conflict because this would pull Iran into a conflict with Israel. Iran to back Hezbollah in case of war with Israel. Iran has said that they don't want a war, that they want to try to avoid a war, but they are now saying that if there is a war between Israel and Hezbollah, if something happens, then Iran will back Hezbollah in this war. Dangerous times, very dangerous times. So going back to the United States and talking about the Biden debacle, we now have reports from Bloomberg that the Democrats are weighing an early Biden nomination to squash talk of a swap. Party could formally nominate Biden as early as July 21st. President's allies have pushed back on calls for a replacement. This is what I was talking about yesterday. The Biden family, they decided, the Biden oligarchy, the Biden oligarchy, as Axios called it, they have decided that Biden is going to stay put. And it looks like most of the Democrat elite and establishment, they saw the situation as too difficult to swap Biden out. And they're going to stick with Biden. Not only does it look like they're going to stick with Biden, but they are even going to get an early Biden nomination so as to just end all of this talk about Newsom and Harris and Gretchen Whitmer and all of this stuff. That seems to be the decision that has been made. They're sticking with Biden. And now it's time to spin. Now they got to spin the debate performance. It was just one bad debate. Don't judge Biden with one bad debate. Look at all the other good things he has done. Look at all the other good things that he has accomplished in his term as president. And you actually have some analysts saying that Biden was good on the U.S. economy. I don't know. You have some analysts saying that Biden was good on foreign policy. Biden was good on Ukraine. Biden was good on the Middle East and Gaza and Israel. I don't know where all these analysts are getting all of this from, but that's what they're actually saying. You actually have analysts who many people consider very smart analysts and debaters. They are saying, look, it was one bad debate. Look at all the good that Biden has done for the U.S. economy. What are you talking about? Look at all the good that Biden has done in his foreign policy. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? But that's what they're saying. That is what they're saying now. And Trump. Trump may have had a good debate performance, a good debate night, but it was 10 years. It's 10 years of Trump. Do you really want 10 years of Trump? What would you rather have? 10 years of what you know about Trump, or a one bad debate night from Biden?
Carl, according to the people you've been talking to, what are you hearing?
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, and been among them are some people who have raised a lot of money for him. And they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show.
Tucker Carlson, he put out a post on Twitter X, and he believes that Biden is done. He still believes that Biden is done. Maybe he's right. He does have excellent sources. Maybe he knows something that we don't. He said Biden is done. Bet on it. Too many prominent Democrats have suggested he's brain damaged. They can't walk that back. They have to remove him, and they will. The only question is when. If they're smart, they'll do it immediately. If Kamala's going to be the nominee, she might as well be president first. That leaves the question of Trump and his sentencing on July 11th. Biden's collapse makes this a much more perilous moment than it was. At this point, Trump is not just the Republican candidate, but effectively the presumptive president. If you're going to put him in jail, it had better be for a very serious crime that everyone agrees he committed. Otherwise, you risk destroying the system completely and forever. We're in legitimate danger. Democrats need to pull back. Tucker, Democrats never pull back. The collective West never pulls back. Tucker, Carlson, they have no reverse gear. Someone needs to tell this to Tucker Carlson. They have no reverse gear. But I definitely agree with Tucker Carlson on one thing. We are in a very dangerous time. War in Ukraine that the U.S. is involved in. War in the Middle East that the U.S. is involved in and could become much bigger. Sanctions war, trade war with China, and a possible hot war with China. Collective West economies that are collapsing, that are melting down. Inflation, out of control inflation. We're in very dangerous times. And we have a U.S. president that works from 10 to 4. Not 9 to 5. Nope, 10 to 4. That's when he's awake. That's when he's awake. Anything outside of 10 to 4, don't call the president. Oh boy. But Tucker still thinks that Biden is going to be removed. As I said in my video yesterday, let's give it another week or two and we'll see how all of this shakes out. But it does look like they're going to stick with Biden because it's too late in the game. It's just too late in the game. So let's, should we get to some clown worlds? Yeah, let's do some clown worlds. So everyone's talking about this Elensky's wife and this Bugatti car purchase in Paris. I don't know if this is true. I don't think this is true. I think this is fake news. If you want my honest opinion, maybe this is true, but if you want my honest take on this, I think this is fake news. I think this is disinformation. I can't understand why someone who has sold a Bugatti to anyone, or even to someone famous, to a world leader, even a world leader with the stature of Elensky and Elensky's wife, why they would create a video of this, why would they show the invoice, which doesn't really look like a real, an invoice to sell the Bugatti. It just doesn't feel real. I don't understand why this would be publicized in the way that it's publicized. So I don't believe it. Maybe it's true, maybe I'm proven wrong, but I think this is fake news. That's just my take. It just seems too convenient. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. Anyway, I wanted to just mention that because I think that's a good clown world story. Kanye West, they are reporting that he is in Moscow. And because he is in Moscow, Kanye West has been placed on the Mirotvorets kill list, the peacemaker, as they call it in English. But it is a kill list on the website, it says Langley and Warsaw, or Langley and Poland. I don't know why it says that on the header of their website, but this is the list where if you're on it, you have fallen out of favor with the Elensky regime and probably some three-letter agencies, I don't know. But because he traveled to Moscow, Kanye West has been placed, allegedly, he has been placed on the Mirotvorets list. So, yeah, Kanye West is now wanted by Elensky. And finally, we have news that Russia has seized ownership of Chocolate King Poroshenko's chocolate factory in Russia. The Roshen chocolate factory in Russia has been seized by the Russian government for tax evasion. That is why they are seizing Poroshenko, the Chocolate King's chocolate factory. Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory. Petro Poroshenko and his chocolate factory. Seized by Russia. Poroshenko, the man that is calling all of the world leaders, if you're Vovan and Lexus, the man responsible for all of the prank calls. Poroshenko, Vovan and Lexus's go-to guy when they prank call Cameron and And who else have they prank called? All of the people that they prank called, Stephen King and all of these guys. They like to use Poroshenko. I don't know, was Stephen King Poroshenko, or was he someone else? Cameron was Poroshenko. Trying to think who else was Poroshenko. Anyway, his chocolate factory has been taken from him. That's the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merch. And I will catch you guys tomorrow. Take care.